Now, this is exciting. We are about to dig into the no competition bio. Now, the reason this is called the no competition bio is mo- now, this is exciting. We are about to dig into the no competition bio. Now, the reason this is called the no competition bio is most guys are not doing this. In fact, around 33% of men that use online dating apps don't even have a bio, meaning it's empty. However, studies have shown that if you do have a bio, it dramatically increases the rate at which you get matches. Now, the problem is most people's bios just suck. They're usually one sentence with something cheeky or a couple emojis, nothing that really breaks through the noise. And remember, you're trying to be a signal amongst the noise. A lot of this course is based around this idea of the signal-to-noise ratio and improving it as well as possible. And if your signal-to-noise ratio sucks and you're lumped in with the same annoying shit that most guys are posting, you're just going to be seen as another Chad. So what's a Chad? A Chad is basically your average guy, and there's nothing that special about him. Sure, Chad number 1 might be funny. Chad number 2 might be slightly better looking. Chad number 3 might be a little bit more buff. When a female is on a dating app and she's scrolling through all these Chads, they all kind of blend into the same person. And so the goal with what we're doing here is to increase our signal so that we're not really a Chad, we're like a completely different league. And we do this by leveraging something called emotional highs. And I'm going to teach you how to create a bio for dating apps that triggers an emotional high so you don't get stuck into the Chad category that most guys are stuck in. Cool. Now, with that said, let's get into this first big topic, social value. Before we dive into how to construct the perfect bio, you need to understand this concept of social value. Humans are attracted to other humans that are seen as having high value. Why is this? Well, if you think about world leaders, CEOs of companies, they have this magnetic quality to them. At least some of them do. And this comes from thousands or millions of people looking to that person for guidance. And when that happens, their social value is dramatically elevated. And women are attracted to men that have a high social value because it's basically a marker, it's a filter for this person being able to take care of them, this person being accepted by society thinking that they have leadership qualities, and women like men that have those qualities. And so if you can hack your perceived social value on dating apps, you're essentially doing the thing that attracts women, except you don't have to be a world leader or a CEO. All you have to do is have a killer bio or a killer profile that creates this image of someone with very high social value. So everything you do, every message you send, everything you write in your bio, at the end of the day, you need to be conveying that you're someone that has insanely high social value. Let me give you an example. I have here a bullet point called Onion Man. So when I was in college, one of the most popular kids on the entire campus was my friend Rob. He worked at In-N-Out. And if you don't know what In-N-Out is, it's a burger joint. So he literally flipped burgers for a living. However, he was the most popular kid on my college campus. He had the most social value. Now, usually people associate social value with having a ton of money. And the reason I wanted to bring up my friend Rob, Onion Man, is because he didn't have a ton of money. He was literally flipping burgers. And the reason he's called Onion Man is because he would come back from work smelling like onions because he's working with burgers all day. And yet, Onion Rob was still the most popular person on campus. Now, the reason that he was able to maintain such a high level of social value is because he was extroverted. And normally in society, if you're an extrovert, if you're really social and you're networking all the time, people will view you as a connector. They'll view you as someone that they should talk to because you probably have insane connections and you know everyone and you can give them a ton of value. And so your social value skyrockets. What do you do if you're an introvert? I'm an introvert. Most of my friends are introverts. We're all nerds and geeks. That's where the beauty of the internet comes in. You can create a bio that essentially hacks this idea of someone that has high social value without being an extrovert. An extrovert is how most guys that have high social value do it. They just are super fucking social. It's exhausting for introverts like me to just be that level of social all day. And, I saw people doing this and I would think to myself, now there has to be a better way. There has to be a way where introverts can also portray insanely high social value. And again, the internet is how you do it. You only need to create this image, this bio, this persona one time, and you're done. People will come to your profile and they'll instantly realize oh, this is a man with high social value. Now, what's the point of a bio? So a bio should demonstrate that you're cool, you have high social value, and that you have personality. I'm going to give you a ton of examples later. Like I said, most guys have a cheeky one-line bio. If you do this, you will be seen as noise. And remember, you want your signal to be as high as possible. You have to understand how to do this in a high-value way. Now, the way that I like to think about a bio is a landing page. If you don't know what a landing page is, it's basically the page that you land on when you want to buy a product. Think about Amazon. You click a link. Let's say you want some headphones. You click a link. You go to the headphones, Bose, QC, whatever. And on that page, Bose will have some marketing language that will try to persuade you to buy their product. It might say these noise canceling headphones are the best because they cancel better than Sony or whatever the fuck. That's a terrible example. But basically that's a landing page. And the purpose of that page is to get you to buy. Now, as a company like Amazon, when they see a product like a Bose headphone and it's not selling too well, they can make tweaks to that landing page to make the conversion rate higher. And so that's the same way you are going to view your dating profile. This is a landing page that you are going to tweak to make your conversion rate higher. This is the beauty of this system. Once you think about your entire dating life in terms of business, it changes everything because everything can be modified and everything can be optimized. And so if you want to reach a certain conversion rate, for example, 2 to 3 dates with models per week, then all you would have to do is tweak certain parts of your funnel. And so right now, the bio, this is one of the most important things. If you have a bio that just screams high social value, you are going to attract a specific type of person. And now later we're going to go into some examples of bad bios and good bios, but your bio will speak to the types of women that you're going to attract. And for that reason, we need to view it as a landing page. We need to view it as something that you can tweak and optimize to get that perfect fit. So let's look at here. This is a typical landing page. You've probably seen something like this before as you've, tried to buy a product. In fact, we had this for the product that you're currently watching right now. We had a landing page and we had this similar type of structure. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details here of what all of this means, but the point is there is a flow. There's a flow that captures your attention, tells you what the person or the product is about, and then has a call to action at the end. Which brings us to the structure of the no competition bio. After I realized that I should be treating my bio like a landing page, I went through tons of iterations of how to properly display myself as a high social value man. And after a bunch of testing, this is the 4-part sequence that we found was the best. You start off with a pattern interrupt. This is the hook. The first thing they see that captures their attention and separates you from the sea of noise. Then you have the disqualifier. The disqualifier is something that makes you come across as someone that has a ton of options. And for this reason, you are going to be disqualifying certain types of women. We'll get into this later. The next section is humble bragging. This is fascinating because a lot of guys have a hard time doing this. They have an inability to brag about themselves because they honestly don't think they deserve it. But if you can do this properly in a way that's not douchey, it's amazing. You're basically talking yourself up without coming across like a cunt. And lastly, we have the call to action. This is like a challenge that you put out to the women that are reading your profile that also gets them to message you first. We'll get into that later. All right, so the first part of this 4-part sequence is the pattern interrupt. Now, a pattern interrupt is your hook. Think about a commercial. When you see a really good commercial, the first couple seconds will capture your attention. The problem is most commercials don't do a very good job of this. That's why whenever you see an ad on YouTube that lets you skip it, 99% of the time you will skip that ad. But every once in a while, you'll stumble upon an ad that actually speaks to you. You'll watch it and then you'll be kind of surprised at yourself, like, what the fuck, how have I not skipped this yet? And next thing you know, you're on the site's landing page and maybe you even buy their product. But the point is, if the marketer did a good job at hooking you, at pattern interrupting, then you have a higher chance of buying their product. Does this make sense? Now let's look at this through the lens of online dating. If your first line in your profile captures their attention, then you have a higher chance of going on a date with a girl. Dating apps are essentially social media platforms. And think about how social media platforms are made. There was this book by Nur Ayal called Hooked, where he basically talks about everything that goes into, all the psychology that goes into creating an app or a product that gets people addicted to using it. And there are examples of apps and products that are absolutely killing it in that regard. Facebook, Tinder, Bumble, Instagram. These are all built to get people addicted. That's why there's swiping. Swiping is an addictive behavior. Every time you swipe, it's kind of like you're at a casino and you're, spending chips on gambling, except the chips are free because you can keep swiping for as much as you want. And so it's very addictive to people. If you don't understand what a girl is going through on a dating app, you're going to fail miserably. If you think about the fact that these apps are built for addiction and attractive women have endless options when it comes to men they can pick, how are you going to stand out if the first line in your bio is not something that's absolutely capturing her attention and making her feel an emotion? You're going to be left in the dust. When I see guys complaining about online dating and talking about how they don't get any matches or the matches won't meet up with them, they usually blame the app. They'll blame the app and be like, you know what, online dating just doesn't work. It's a fucking scam. I love it when I hear stuff like this because that is me. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, one more person that I don't have to fucking compete with. Less noise on the app, thank God. But the reality is, if you understand how these apps are built and that they're built for addiction, all you have to do is play that game. Play the game of interrupting the pattern they're in. Now, the reason it's called a pattern interrupt is because as someone is going through an app and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and seeing all these guys messaging the same thing, she's in a pattern. There's this term in marketing called banner blindness, where, you've seen these like websites where there's a bunch of spammy banners everywhere. Your brain doesn't even process those ads because they all kind of look the same. They're all saying the same thing. They're all trying to get your money. They're all trying to get you to click. And you're just like, fuck you. I don't want to listen to this shit. A girl goes through the exact same thing on a dating app. When every guy is saying the exact same thing, every bio is kind of like the same cheeky sentence or no bio at all, she starts to not even see those profiles. She experiences the same banner blindness that you experience when you're on a website that has a bunch of ads. With all that in mind, it makes sense why the first sentence is the most critical. If you don't nail that first sentence, you're not even going to get her attention in the first place. So let's break down some examples of a good pattern interrupt. What are some things you can say that will hook her attention immediately? This first one is one that I used for a long time. We tested a ton of different hooks. This one performed very, very well in a bio. So it says, if your best trait is shopping, then there are a lot of mirror selfie shirtless bros on the site that'll be perfect for you. Why is this good? Well, not only is it a disqualifier, which we'll get to later, but also it's a story. It's a story in one sentence. If your best trait is shopping, then there are plenty of shirtless guys on the site that'll be perfect for you. It paints an image in her head. Think about most bios she's reading. It's usually something poorly written or copy-pasted from the internet. This is the first time she's probably reading something that gets her to see an image in her head, that gets her to feel something. And it disqualifies at the same time, which again, we'll get to. All right, let's look at the second one. This is the one that I'm actually currently using. And if you steal it, I'm going to slit your fucking throat. I know it's funny, like, even though I say all this, like, don't steal it, I know guys are going to do it. And those are the guys that will see the least amount of results because they're not actually putting in the time and the effort that's required to create a killer bio that actually expresses themselves authentically. So sure, go ahead and steal it, but if you want to base every relationship that you start on a complete lie, then that's your problem. Anyway, married a hot white girl, just looking for some side action. This is actually missing a few sentences, so I'll tell you what it says afterwards. Here's what I actually currently have in my Tinder bio. It says, married a hot white girl, half brown baby on the way, just looking for some side action. And then the next sentence says, just kidding, I'm single. Right? Now, that right there captures attention. It's funny. It puts people in a roller coaster of emotions. At first, they think like I'm this dude on a dating app looking to cheat on my wife as she's pregnant, and then I tell them I'm kidding. Like, what guy is doing this? No one is fucking doing this. Okay, this next one is hilarious. Actually, I'm going to pop up a picture of it right here. This is also one that we've tested a million times and has done very, very well. And it's really funny. It starts off, the first sentence is, this is a magic bunny. And then you put an emoji of a bunny. In just a moment, this bunny will teach you how to find love and happiness. Next line. Just kidding, I have no idea. That's why I'm on a dating app. Do you see how this is so different from anything she's seeing? This is an emotional high that's immediately being created just from your first sentence, just by saying this is a magic bunny. If you think about the psychology of dating apps and the fact that, women are stuck in a pattern as they're scrolling endlessly through all these chads, if you think about that and then think about your message, your bio, and how it pops up as something completely unique, something that actually gets her to feel an emotion, it's not hard to see why this works so well. It's not hard to see why there's actually not competition on dating apps. One of the biggest objections I get for people that want to start, getting into online dating is, how am I supposed to compete with like all these fucking guys, all these good looking dudes? You don't want to play that game. You don't want to play the game of being more buff or being better looking or being better dressed. Sure, do those things because you want to for yourself. But instead, on dating apps, you need to be playing the game of emotions. You need to view this the same way a world-class marketer would view it, the same way a businessman would view it, as a funnel that can be optimized. So these first sentences are your hook. When you're thinking about a landing page, that first line on the top of that page, if they did their job well, will hook you in and make you want to read more, will make you want to watch the video. And so this first line is your landing page hook. Awesome. Let's move on to disqualifiers. Now, what is a disqualifier? A disqualifier is essentially a filter that you are putting up that lets the woman know what type of person you're looking for. Only men that have high social value even think about this idea of disqualifiers. If you do this correctly, it basically makes you come across as someone who's not thirsty, quote unquote. You're a man who has standards, and a man that has standards is a man with high social value. You have optionality. So if you're putting disqualifiers in your profile, and by that I mean you're adding sentences or lines that talk about the types of girls you are looking for and the types that you're not, it shows that you have options. Because think about it like this. A guy who has no options will literally date anyone. He will be on the app just being like, anyone that responds to me, I will go out with you. That vibe is not attractive, especially if we're talking about the top 1% of attractive females on dating apps. If you're portraying that vibe, there's absolutely no way you will get the top 1%. Women can smell it. They can taste the blood in the water. It's like this very unattractive vibe when someone who doesn't have any options is putting their message out to the universe that basically says, no one wants to date me, so the first person that does, I will say yes. You will probably get a date from that, but she won't be the highest quality girl. So the way that I would describe high quality is physically attractive, meaning a model or someone that could be a model. Second is someone with very, very high social intelligence. And third is someone that's very intelligent in general. If you are actually looking for that type of girl, which, they're called unicorns because they're so rare, then if you're not disqualifying certain types, you're going to come across as thirsty. And if you come across as thirsty, those high quality women will not be attracted to you. So the purpose of this disqualifier is to filter out the types of girls that you don't like and to filter in the types that you do. Like I mentioned previously, that hook of, if your best trait is shopping, that also serves as a disqualifier because you are disqualifying women that value purses and shoes over traveling, for example. You're disqualifying the types of women that are gold diggers. You're disqualifying women that don't fall into a specific category. And it's interesting because by saying if your best trait is shopping, you're actually disqualifying a good portion of women because a lot of women do really love to shop. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing. However, if you're personally not that type of person, then put it in your profile. Show her that you know what you want. Here's another example. If you have a dark sense of humor and love spontaneous adventures, then shoot me a message. This is so ballsy and confident to say in your profile. It basically tells the girl that you have options, you know what you want, you know what you don't want, and if you're the type of person that falls into a specific category, then you know what? Shoot me a message. Now think about disqualifiers that you can add into your own profile. Feel free to follow the same exact format that we've given you here. If you have a dark sense of humor, replace that with whatever your quality is, and love blank, I have here spontaneous adventures, then shoot me a message. Just replace those words with things that are actually true for yourself. Now we're going to get into humble bragging. This is where things start to get very interesting because you might uncover some deeper psychological problems that you have. And don't feel bad, we all have psychological problems. We all have things that we want to improve and ways we want to be more confident. But as you write the part of your profile that has to do with humble bragging, you might notice some deeper issues. Now, we'll get into it later, but first, let's talk about the fact that you deserve it. One of the biggest problems I've noticed with men in my test group that were not able to humble brag about themselves. Now, again, humble bragging is a way to talk about yourself in a good light that doesn't make you come across like a douchebag. So men that have a hard time humble bragging usually have a hard time because they don't feel like they deserve it. And the reason they don't feel like they deserve it is because to a degree, maybe they don't love themselves. And this might be like a little bit of a deep topic to talk about when it comes to a Tinder bio, but I actually think it reveals a much deeper problem. And so if you're sitting here trying to figure out how to write the humble brag portion of your bio and you're having some trouble, which is normal, by the way, this is a completely normal feeling. If you're having trouble, it probably means you haven't really accepted the fact that you're an awesome person and that you deserve this. And so what I want you to do is I want you to write 20 reasons why you're awesome. Literally write, after this video is over, just pause and write it down. This is going to be hard. This is going to take some time. In fact, the first time that I did this, right after my breakup, it took me 3 days to get to 20 because I was in such a negative headspace and I was so depressed that I didn't feel like I deserved an attractive woman. I didn't feel like I loved myself. And so coming up with 20 reasons of why I'm awesome was actually very, very hard to do. And so I'm going to give you some reasons that I can think of at the top of my head right now of why I'm an amazing person. And I could go on for a long time because I'm at a point now where I've accepted that I am someone that's worthy of being dated and that I am someone that's awesome. But again, this took time to get to. So just to give you some fodder, some food for thought, here are a couple reasons of why I'm awesome. I'm really good at challenging people and making them think. That's one of the most frequent compliments I get from people. When I'm on a date, women usually tell me, like, I've never thought about X, Y, or Z problem in this way before. Like, thanks for making me think about it. I'm really good at making people feel comfortable. A lot of my relationships with friends are extremely deep. And at first I thought this was normal, but I realized this is like a unique thing. To be able to quickly create deep relationships with people. Another one is I have cool tattoos. Yes, you can be surface level and say you have cool tattoos. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I have cool tattoos. I waited fucking years on a waiting list to get this one specific artist, and I'm really happy with his work, and I think my tattoos are pretty awesome. So I just gave you 3 reasons. I could keep going on and on, but I just wanted to give you an example of what types of things you should be writing down. Again, they don't all have to be super deep. Some of them can be very deep, like, hey, I'm great at creating deep connections with people. And some of them can be surface level, like, yo, I have cool fucking tattoos. So do this. Write down these 20 reasons of why you're awesome. And if you look at this outline, I have a portion here called the Trail of Whys. Now, the Trail of Whys is very useful for when you get stuck. For example, if you're writing down your list and you can't think of any more reasons, ask yourself why. Why is it hard for me to figure out why I'm awesome? And let's rewind for me and talk about when I just came out of my relationship. Why was it hard for me to think of why I'm awesome? Well, because I just came out of a 6-year monogamous relationship and I didn't remember how to interact with the opposite sex. And so now as a single man, how was I supposed to successfully date? That was the why. And then you can ask yourself another why. Why does it matter that you don't remember how to successfully date? Well, because when I was younger, I had a lot of trouble with women. I had social anxiety and I didn't know how to interact with the opposite sex. Why? This is called the Trail of Whys. So why? Well, I was overweight and I had a lot of acne growing up. And so I was ostracized by my school. Why? Well, because in my school, I was actually the only brown kid in a completely white Catholic school. And so being brown and fat and having a lot of acne was not a good combination for my self-esteem. Why? Why did it matter that you were brown and fat and didn't have acne? Well, because my mom, growing up, told me that it was really important to have certain physical qualities to be a reputable man. She would literally tell me things like, Jesse, if you're not a certain height, then you're not going to be successful in life. Why? Why did she say that? Well, maybe she grew up with her own insecurities because her parents drilled some weird shit into her head. Why? And you can go on and on and on until you get to the root of the problem. So if you have trouble figuring out why you're awesome or something comes up, follow the Trail of Whys all the way to the very beginning. Once you understand why a certain thing is happening, it's way easier to overcome it. And so if you're like getting into writer's block and you have a roadblock in terms of, coming up with 20 reasons, do the Trail of Whys, figure out why it's so hard for you. And once you're able to figure that out, it's so much easier to just let it go. Let go of the trauma from your past. Let go of these feelings of insecurity because you understand what's making them tick. And once you understand it, it's just way fucking easier. Now, when it comes to humble bragging, this is such a strange issue. I've noticed it over and over and over again. And I think this has to do with men feeling inadequate. And so as a self-defense mechanism, they will be overly self-deprecating or overly sexual. So, for example, they will say things about the fact that they just want to get laid, or they'll talk about their job, but in a way that makes them seem like they're a little bitch. They're not really proud of themselves, and so it manifests itself in different ways. And these are the 2 top ways that I've seen it manifest itself. Over self-deprecation and overly sexual. I will get into some examples later, but just keep that in mind for now. Don't be overly sexual and don't overly self-deprecate. It's good to self-deprecate to a degree, but you don't want to go overboard because you come across as insecure. Now, you want to stress test everything you write in your bio with females. Any female friend you have, it doesn't matter, even if it's your mom or your sister or whatever, just ask someone what they think. Don't use their response as, the be-all, end-all of online dating. Just use it as a data point. And so the reason I like to ask women is because you can get a feel for douchiness specifically. And as a high-value man, remember, we're going for the top 1% of attractive women on dating apps. If that's actually your goal, you want to go for the top 1%, the most attractive women are interacting with so many men that they can filter through weird behavior like douchiness and low value instantly. And so When you stress test your bio and your ideas with women that are in your life, you can get a feel for what is douchey and what's not, and what's low value. Now let's get into how to actually humble brag about yourself. So the template is, I did X and Y, but Z. I'll go into what X, Y, and Z mean, but here's a couple examples. I own a company similar to Airbnb, but I'm also an idiot and my father reminds me often. Now, I own a company similar to Airbnb is such an extravagant brag. Like, it's so insane. And I wanted to include something here really crazy just to give you like the overboard example. I don't say this in my profile. Like, this is not something that I would put in, but it's an example of how if you do have something insane that you can brag about yourself, you can put it in your profile if you balance it. So he balanced it with, but I'm an idiot and my father reminds me often. That line would not work if your brag was, I have a beautiful golden doodle dog, or I drive a souped up Hyundai. If you said that, and then followed it up with, but I'm an idiot and my father reminds me often, you're just going to come across as a fucking loser. But if you say something like, I own a company, which is like the extreme end of social value, you need to balance it out with the extreme end of self-deprecation. Now, let's look at this next one, which is a little bit more relatable, I think, to most people. I spend my time traveling to exotic corners of the world with people I love, but ... So, now, this is a humble brag that most people can say. However, when you read it, you're probably thinking that I'm some world-traveling entrepreneur that has retired at the age of 30, that, has an amazing life, standing underneath waterfalls and shit. But in reality, if you just travel a bit and like to go to hostels and, you occasionally do something fun every year, you can put in your profile, I spend my time traveling to exotic corners of the world with people I love. That's such a cooler way of describing the fact that you like to travel than just by saying I like to travel. This is the art of the humble brag, being able to say something cool about yourself in a way that doesn't seem douchey. But also, you don't want to undersell yourself. It's really hard for guys to think of ways to talk themselves up because, like I said, they don't truly love themselves, or they're too modest. Now, think about things that you don't even think are that cool. Let's say, for example, last year, you stayed in your hometown, but once in the year, you went abroad. You traveled somewhere with some friends. You can literally say that, you spend your time traveling to exotic corners of the world with people that you love. It is true. It's just a cooler way of saying something that's normally regular, ordinary, or mundane. It paints a picture in her head. She can see a little movie of this person, this high-value man, doing whatever the fuck he wants. It says so much. Now, I want to go into some examples of bios that I don't consider good. That doesn't mean that they're completely bad. These are prime examples of the things that most men do wrong. So let's look at this first one. He states his height, 6'1". Thank God. I actually really like that, but I would probably change it to thank God, right? ? It's a little bit more personal. English, okay, cool. If you're in a non-English, if you're not in London, then that's probably pretty interesting. Like you're a foreigner, you're traveling, cool. Slanted penis. This is where things start to go downhill. Now, let's just say he does have a slanted penis. That's actually kind of a funny thing to put in a profile. If you're a dude, think about the top 1% of women, high-value women. I want to make sure we're on the same page here. I'm literally talking about models and women that get hit up hundreds of times per day. If you want to attract them, and you say things like slanted penis in your profile bio before they get a sense of your vibe, before they get a sense of who you are, it comes across as socially uncalibrated. Now, the reality is you can say whatever the fuck you want. You can be as offensive as you want under the right context. A lot of people get this idea wrong. They think that, there's this new PC movement that's happening where people can't say anything and social and free speech is being neutered. To a degree, sure, I agree, kind of, But the reality is, the people that are getting the most offended and are, like they want to be able to say their stupid shit that's super sexual or super racist, they're usually just not calibrated when they say it. And so the person's actually criticizing the lack of calibration, the lack of social intelligence. And so in the third line of your profile, if you say slanted penis, you are immediately disqualifying the most attractive women because they will see that as socially uncalibrated. Now, there's a lot of nuances to this idea of social calibration and communication. However, like I said earlier, the two biggest categories that most guys fuck up is they're overly sexual and they don't know how to brag about themselves properly. And so this is an example of just overly sexual where it doesn't really do anything except kind of creep her out. Like, think about a really, hot girl. She might even laugh at this line. She'll look at it and smile, but in the back of her head, she's going to be wondering, wait, did he say it like I think he said it, or did he say it in a creepy way? Like, is he going to pull out like some weird sexual jokes when I'm on a date with him? Is he going to like get really pervy with me? Again, you can do all of those things. You can be very sexual. You can be funny and fucked up and say offensive things if the context is correct. One of the first things you say to a girl should not be that you have a slanted penis on a Tinder dating profile. Again, you can say this in real life. You can say it in the right context. Putting it in your profile bio will eliminate model quality women from matching with you, from responding to you, from messaging you. Okay, let's continue. So he says, I shower every day. I don't always eat fish and chips. Sometimes I eat pie and mash. I'm highly vulnerable to spicy food. This is all just cute, fluffy bullshit. What is he missing here? Let's look back at this. He's not hitting on the 4 parts of the no competition biostructure. Pattern interrupt. You know what? I'll actually give this to him. This is a decent pattern interrupt. 6-1, thank God, right? Okay, I'll give him that. Disqualifier, humble bragging, call to action. Let's see. Is there a disqualifier here? Nope. Nothing that says anything about the types of people he's looking for. Nothing that shows that, he's a high value man, which brings us to the next point, humble bragging. Is he humble bragging about anything here? No. I shower every day. Okay. I don't always eat fish and chips. Sometimes I eat pie and mash. None of this stuff shows that he is someone that society views as high value. Take a moment, read this. If you read this, even if you're entertained, would you view this person as high value? Is this enough information to view this person as high value? No, absolutely not. And if you think about this from a woman's perspective, even though this is probably better than most profiles, he's missing the most important part, which is displaying high value, showing that you're someone that has high social value. All right, let's look at this next one. Adrian, it's 2020. Let's start with honesty. I'm trying to rearrange your guts and blow some more fireworks in your face. Okay, so first of all, this is funny. It's a funny, bro locker room type of joke. But is this going to attract model quality women? Absolutely not. Who do you think this is going to attract? Again, this course is about getting high quality women. I've seen courses from guys on online dating. And yeah, if you're honestly just trying to go for quick hookups, this kind of thing might work. But if you literally want the top 1% of models, this won't work. Trust me, this will not work. Think about the psychology of this. The most attractive women have endless options, the name of this course. They have endless options. The least attractive women don't have endless options. So this type of message will act as a magnet for the wrong type of girl. You're going to get the type of girl that's just, on the app because she's horny and doesn't have many options. And if that's what you're looking for, no judgment, totally cool. But again, that's not why I'm on dating apps. I'm literally trying to date models that are very intelligent. And this type of bio does not display any sort of high social value. It shows a little bit of humor, but in the wrong direction because it's overly sexual. And what's going to end up happening is like I know guys that do this type of game on online dating. Like I actually know plenty of guys that do this type of game where they're super blunt, very polarizing, which by the way, being polarizing is good, which we'll get to later, but polarizing in a sexual way. And when I see their dates, I'm just like, man, it makes sense that you would be going out with this person instead of something that like seems more in their league, if that makes sense. So this type of bio, not very good if your goal is to actually date models, but if you're just trying to look for a quick hookup, sure, I guess this could work. All right, let's talk about the very last portion of a no competition bio, and that is the CTA, the call to action. This is critical. The reason that women are not messaging you first is because you don't have something for them to go off of. The more you have to make someone think, the less likely they are to respond, the less likely they are to message you. You want to give them fodder. Fodder means a reason to message you. So here's the template. If you are X and Y, then shoot me a message. So for example, in my profile, I have, if you have a dark sense of humor and you're up for an adventure, then shoot me a message. And again, this is also a disqualifier. We talked about disqualifiers earlier, and I mentioned this exact same line. You can have a call to action that's also a disqualifier. These 4 sections don't mean 4 separate sections. If you can create 1 or 2 sentences that hit on multiple checkpoints of the no competition bio, then by all means do that. Now I have a note here because like giving men advice on these types of things is always kind of tricky because you always have to take into account social calibration. And so someone might hear, oh, a dark sense of humor. I have a dark sense of humor. And they'll just go over the top with it. And right from the get-go, be really dark and make really fucked up jokes without establishing any sort of comfort with the girl first. So the rule of thumb here is don't take it too far. Don't take the dark humor too far. You don't want to be uncalibrated when trying to be yourself. Okay, so here is another CTA, another call to action. Super selective, so don't feel bad if I don't reply. I know you do the same thing all the time, smiley face. This is so clever. I love this one. I use this for a very long time. The last line of your profile, you want your call to action to be something strong that gets women to message you. This is one that also acts as a disqualifier, but also it makes you come across as someone that has a ton of options, because only someone that has high social value, that has a ton of options, would say something like, I'm super selective, so don't feel bad if I don't reply. And then right afterwards saying, I know you do the same thing all the time, means you're also speaking to women that have that same endless option vibe. Models and very attractive women will completely understand and they'll relate to you if you say something like, I know you do the same thing all the time, because models are ghosting most men on dating apps. So they'll read this and be like, oh, this guy gets it. It's like he's part of this like exclusive group of people that understands this secret thing. And this secret thing is basically having a ton of options and acting in a way that filters out people you don't like. And this is kind of like an abstract concept, but it's really hard for most men to portray this because most men don't have endless options. But women naturally do it very well. Attractive women. They give off this vibe of like they want the guy to impress them, right? And so when you put a line like this, I know you do the same thing all the time, you're basically giving off this vibe. And it's really interesting because I've been on dates with many women that saw this line, and afterwards we talked about it. And the really, really, really attractive ones thought it was the greatest thing ever. But the ones that weren't too attractive actually viewed it as a negative thing because they couldn't relate. And so this line is very, very sneaky in the sense that if you're trying to date models and, the top 1% of desirable women, it will speak to them. Now, the point of a bio is it provides fodder for the girl to message you. Beyond just, displaying high social value and all that stuff that we talked about, which is critically important, you want to give her something, you want to give her a reason to message you. You want to lower the barrier of entry as much as possible. Remember what we talked about. Dating apps are social media platforms that have been built to reward addictive behavior. If she's on your bio and she's reading it and you're not giving her anything that will give her a reason to message you, she's just not going to message you. She'd rather just swipe and keep going and, continuing that addiction feedback loop. But if you give her something where she doesn't really have to think too much, and instead she can just use something in your bio as a reason to message you, that's how you get attractive women to message you first. And my online dating app inbox is filled with women messaging me first. I actually have so many women messaging me that I can't respond to them all. Like I just don't have time. And most guys don't have this problem. They have the opposite problem where they'll send a message and it won't get a response, or no girls will message them first, so they have to sit there and just type in a message to every single girl. It's really nice just looking at your phone and seeing attractive women message you first because you've done all of these things correctly. You've come across as a high-value man, and you have fodder for them to message you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this idea of being polarizing. If you don't know what this means, it's basically an idea in psychology where it's better for a few people to like you deeply than many people to like you on a surface level. Think about your best friends, right? Like the people that you really, really click with. I'm sure that your closest friends are not people that everyone would get along with, but you specifically like them because they're so themselves when it comes to specific traits. Like me, maybe they have a very dark sense of humor, or maybe they're super nerdy, or maybe they're obsessed with video games. Whatever it is, that's what makes people like them. The fact that they have this thing about them, this personality trait, this obsession, whatever it is, and they're not ashamed of it. They're polarizing. Now, compare that with like a guy at a party that's just trying to make friends with everyone, that's not trying to like offend too many people, not trying to rock the boat too much. Sure, everyone kind of likes him, but no one is deeply, deeply connected to him. And so as you're writing your profile bio and following this 4-part structure, you want to create it in a way where you are disqualifying certain types of women, you are qualifying others, and you're being polarizing. You're not trying to get a fuck ton of matches. That's not what this course is about. This course is about dating model quality women. And so as you create this polarizing bio, you want to keep in mind that this is not going to attract everyone. However, this will attract the right types of women. Now, that's everything that I have on the No Competition bio. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I can already see as I'm going through this that one of the questions will be, how long does your bio have to be? The reason I didn't include that is because it doesn't matter. Most dating apps have a limit for how many words you can put in the first place. I usually reach the limit. I will pop up my exact dating profile right now. This is mine. This profile hits the limit of how many words are allowed. And this profile does really well. Again, don't copy it. Use it as inspiration and a template to structure your own bio. But as far as length goes, it really doesn't matter. As long as it's good, it can be as long or as short as you want it to be. But let me know what questions you have, and I'll see you in the next video.